Love is in the air on this Friday morning. It's Valentine's Day 2025, and it's Inside the Game. John Turner alongside Nathan Wangler. And yes, it is Valentine's Day. Bah humbug. Terrible holiday. I've already said it. Again. I love my
manufactured
wife. Children. I love my children. I love my wife. I love her so much. I hate this holiday. I hate it so much that I even forgot to put the date right there behind me. That's how much I dislike
I think the term Single Person Awareness Day is probably a more fitting term. Nice.
little flipperoo.
Yeah, but to those people, today is also for you too. We see you. We see you out there. So,
who do we see out there?
The single people. This is
All
Single
single
Person
ladies?
Awareness Day too. It's Valentine's Day and Single Person Awareness Day.
Oh, is that an actual day? Is that actually a thing? Is that a?
I don't know. I made it a thing. I made it a thing right here on Inside the Game.
Well, be careful. We don't want to use trigger words. All right, that's a thing. But yeah, I'm sorry. I subscribe to love. I do. Like I said, I love my wife. I love her very much. I love my children. Yesterday, I spent all day. As soon as our show was done yesterday, the Wingler, I drove to a location where I had to do a shoot all day long, a video shoot, presentation thing. I talked about this a little bit yesterday. And then I had to go from there directly to Oak University, where I called a women's basketball game. The women Golden Grizzlies, not so
too good.
Yeah. They lost by 36 points. And, when you can't score more than, I think they scored 36 total points, 37.
Who'd you play?
We played Green Bay. But so then I come home. And I walk in the door. At about 9:30 last night. And my wife had made me a cheeseburger. It was really good. By the homemade. Fantastic. So I'm sitting there eating a cheeseburger. We have an MASL game happening. We're just finishing up. It's happening on our platform. And she's like, John, we have to go to Meijer. I go, why? Well, we have to get kids Valentine's Day stuff. I go, but it's 9:30. I haven't been home all day. So I got in the car, drove to Meijer, spent $211 on Valentine's Day stuff. Now, for what? It's like, for what, man? Like, for what? Because you have to. We love our kids. Of course we love our kids. I just got them Christmas presents that cost me $3,000. I am well aware of how much I love my children. I don't need to buy them Squishables and whatever else you got to buy kids.
Well,
it's like
who gets gifts? That's what I'm saying. Who gets gifts on Valentine's Day? I just thought it was significant others. Like I thought it was like a 1v1 kind of thing.
No.
Apparently everyone's looped in.
Not in my home. I can't speak to other homes. In my home, everybody's got to get something.
That's tough. This is a proving day for you, man. You got to prove you love everybody. You say it, but Valentine's Day is the day. gotta put your money where your mouth is, man. Gotta open up that wallet and prove it to everybody. Did you buy me a gift too? Did you leave me off the list? You love me, right? Oh man. Okay, I guess he doesn't. Well, I'm doing solo here today. Talk about roster sizes.
That's it. What am I doing? Let's get him out of there. Let's just go. No, I'm just kidding. Hey, so I gotta tell you a funny story, and we'll get into our topic today. And while we typically will do Film Room Friday on Fridays, that's not going to happen today. But and it's nothing against Film Room Friday, but we kind of missed the beat, so we're gonna veer towards something else today. But with that in mind, so last night, I did this basketball game. Normally it's ESPN Plus, right? So we've talked. You were on ESPN Plus. But the university has a contract with TV20 Detroit to do 4 games a year. And last night was one of those 4 games. We did one a few weeks ago. for both men and women. This was, I think, the third game of the 4 games. And last night, the way it works is you've got your ESPN Plus broadcast happening the same time as the TV20 Detroit. And we are contractually obligated to deliver 2 hours, a 2-hour time block. And it's our 2 hours, however we see fit. Now, your typical basketball game will last usually right around 2 hours, maybe go over in some scenarios. So if we go over, it's fine. They say just get out of there as fast as you can. If we go under, it's our time to fill. So last night, we're in the first quarter took 15 total minutes. First quarter took 15 minutes. It was at the end of the first quarter. I have to look at the box score because I don't remember now off the top of my head because it was not good. It was 21-7 to end the first quarter. Okay, it's 21-7. 15 minutes gone by. In my ear, our producer Corey said, "John, yeah, that's a fast quarter." I go, "Yeah, I know. That's a fast quarter." So second quarter was 18-8. And we were done with that second quarter right around 7:40. So 7:45. Again, very quick. We get through halftime, which is a 15-minute break. Start the second half. Third quarter, it's a score of 22-6. Okay. 22-6. And it's about 8:15. And so in my ear, Corey goes, "John, I've got some horrible news." At 8:15. I go, "What's the horrible news?" He goes, "John, we're going to have to fill about a half hour of time if this game ends like in the next 15 minutes." And I go, "Like, what do you mean?" Because I'm not thinking about this. He's like, I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Yeah, well, we have to end our show on TV20 at 8:58. And right now we're tracking to be done at like 8:30. He goes, "So I can go out there and throw some water on the court, and maybe someone falls and slips and falls and someone breaks something so that we can get the time. Or I can maybe turn the power off." You go, "But we're gonna have to do something here, or we're stuck." So we get into the fourth quarter, and so first off, the final score in the fourth quarter was 14-18. So finally, the Golden Grizzlies were able to get into some double digits there, and the game ended up being 75-39. So 36-point loss for the Golden Grizzlies. But the game ends at 8:31. So the game's over with, and I'm in my talk back. And again, for those of you that don't know how this works, I'm my producer's always in my ear. He's not always talking to me. He's always giving me stuff in my ear, and I have a talk back button. So I push a button, I can talk to him. Nobody else in the audience can hear me talking to him. I'm going, "What's the plan here?" He goes, "Well, we have our post-game interview with Dina, who's the interim head coach of the Golden Grizzlies. With that, and then we're gonna end our ESPN broadcast, and then we'll kick it to commercial, and then we'll come back." I go, "Oh, okay." So we do that. So last night I'm like, "Okay, final score here, blah, blah, blah. I want to thank our ESPN audience for tuning in here tonight. You guys have a great night. TV20, we'll be right back for our post-game coverage right after this." Boom, right? So we go to commercial, and he rides it like 4 minutes of commercials. He goes, "So during the commercial break, we're talking this through." He's like, "Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go do the first, we're going to do the highlights. Let's do a highlight reel." So he put together like 5 minutes of highlights, and we'll come back, we'll do the highlights, and then we'll go to commercial again. Perfect. So we bring in Patty, who's our third, our sideline reporter. So Patty's sitting there with us. We're just doing a little talk. We're talking over the highlights because you can't really, when it's a 40-point loss, what are you gonna like? "Oh my God, what a great moment!" It didn't make sense. So we were just talking about the game and how it didn't shape up that well for the Golden Grizzlies and blah blah blah. We get through that commercial. What's the plan now? Let's do the Horizon League standings. Let's talk about the tournament. How even though they lost tonight, okay, great, we'll do that. So boom, we come in, we do a whole thing on the Horizon League standings. We do talk about how there's still one game that separates all of these teams from being in that fourth final spot, and the Golden Grizzlies are still in the mix. Go to commercial. come back. Let's talk about the upcoming matches on Saturday and Sunday. We previewed the matches coming up for both men and women. And then we kicked it, like legitimately with like 15 seconds. Like we were like right there at 15 seconds. Like it was a masterpiece of how we were able to pull this thing together in like 4 minutes. Like we like pulled this whole thing together in 4 minutes. We were talking about nothing. It was almost like the Seinfeld episode, or like what's the concept of Seinfeld? It's a show about nothing.
Nothing.
Show about nothing. What is that? Well, I my shoes. I lost a shoe. That's a show. That's a show.
Uh-huh.
We made it up in real time. So if you watched that show last night on TV 20 Detroit, that last half hour was all made up. We had no idea what we were doing. Just threw it together on a whim. So that was the show. It was very
there's just so many timing mechanisms too, especially on TV. What's up, Jimmy? You gotta make sure you fit everything in, but sometimes you gotta fill space. And Dan Miller was always very outspoken. At least in the one conference I went and I watched him, the radio voice of the Lions. Like it's like, if you want to do this, just learn how to talk. And if sometimes the light's gonna be on and you're gonna have a certain amount of time to fill, and you just have to learn how to fill it. And it doesn't come naturally to some people. You learn how to do it better as you go, but that was certainly one of those situations. Of course, it could have afforded to be a better game. Probably would have given you guys more content at the end to talk about, but I guess I didn't realize Green Bay is Green Bay that good, or you guys just
they're in a 15-0 that well? Yeah, they're that good. They're second in the Rising. They're good. But Good morning, Peter. Happy Friday, I think. My man, even though I can't stand Valentine's Day, it is a happy Friday. That's all I'm going to say about that. Good morning, gentlemen. Friday. Good morning, Michael.
What's up, Michael?
Good morning. So we had to do that yesterday. It's just interesting how you have to come to times. Again, you have to be flexible in this job. It's you can't be rigid, because you wouldn't be able to pull it off if you were. But so some big news happening yesterday. Big news in the soccer world. Big news. Big news. Did you hear about the news?
I did not.
You did not hear about the big news?
Did not.
Wow.
I'm out of the loop.
So let's talk about this. I'm going to put it on the screen. So USL has announced that they are moving forward to create a Division I men's league. So putting things in perspective, Division I would be matching up or competing against Major League Soccer. That is what Division I means. So USL wants to create a Division I league. So that is huge. Now, USL Championship's already a thing. USL League One is already a thing. USL League Two, USLW is already a thing. Super League for women's is a thing. And now they want to create a Division I. They want to create the highest level of soccer in this country. And already in the comments, what do you think, based on what I just told you, would be the first things that people will be talking about when it comes to this? Right out of the gate, Mr. Nathan Wenger, what do you think that would be like the top of mind? Like,
well,
go ahead.
I'm not exactly sure what they're asking. My question is, what is the difference between USL League One and now USL Division One? I thought USL League One was already the highest of the high in terms of the United Soccer League.
Third division. Yeah. So right now in US hierarchy, you've got MLS, which is there's nobody above or equal to MLS right now. It's Division I. It's right, and then right below that you've got the USL Championship, right? And then below that, you've got League One. And then I think MLS Pro next might be in there. And then below that, you've got USL League Two, USLW, UPSL. I mean, you've got all these different things kind of like in that fourth division area. So that's kind of how that works. So back to my question, though, is based on what I just told you, what do you think people were saying right out of the gate with this announcement yesterday about this new league development and how that might impact soccer in this country?
It might become more watered down than it already is.
Nope. Well, that might be a thing. What did we talk about earlier this week and last week that I got very passionate about?
Money.
Yes. But
Where's the money?
what was the reason why I was talking about money?
Relegation and delegation.
Promotion and relegation. Yeah.
Yeah. Promotion and relegation. Whoops.
Yeah. Everything on this yesterday was about that. So I'm going to go to Twitter land and let's do this real quick. Let's go to Twitter land. I'm going to type in USL here and see if I can.
For what it's worth, I did see something about this. My understanding, though, when I initially saw it was, I guess I thought initially there was already a USL league that was at that level. I guess I didn't really understand in creating a new one that they were trying to create a new higher level. I mean, does that mean, I guess my question is for the teams that already exist in the USL Championship, do some of them just automatically kind of de facto become a part of that Division I league then? Or these brand new teams, brand new spots?
My guess is probably. Right. So let's take a look here. So this is the announcement on Twitter land yesterday, right? Okay. So let's see here. USL comes online with full pyramid pro rel. Right there it is. Okay. Pro rel right there. Pro rel. Right. Pro rel. Right. I mean, you just start the whole there it is. Right. I mean, everything is about pro rel. Everything. It's like pro. Please put pro. Please put pro. You just. So I just want to say thank you, USL, for doing this, because now the conversation can continue where Privilege left off, and this is what Peter and when I asked the question, right, and then it's like a lot of chatter about that, Peter. Again, it's the conversation about pro relegation. Now, if I take a step back from what I previously said earlier this week, in the MLS being Division I in their current format, could it be done? No. Now, if you're talking about USL and USL Championship and USL League One, it could work. The biggest challenge still would be the transportation component to this and the money side of this. But if you're asking a USL League One team, a USL Championship team, and now they're going up into this Division One, it might have a chance.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the other thing is that you have to get the owners of the franchises behind it. Peter says, Jimmy, is it good? ? I don't know, maybe. But U.S. Soccer needs to arrange a path for a lot of things. Facilities is the main issue. Here's the other issue that I'll say. And I didn't even think about this yesterday. And I know that we brought up, obviously, the whole money conversation. But the biggest thing to me, and I was thinking about it, and obviously the closed off structure of Major League Soccer, it resembles every other professional league. You're not going to, unfortunately, demote the Miami Marlins to AAA because they're not playing well. You're not going to, send the Detroit Lions to the United States Football League because they're not playing well. It's not something that happens in the United States overall. So therefore, soccer kind of follows the same model. But the biggest issue to me, it's not necessarily the money of the facilities and the turf and everything else like that. And I know we talked about fan bases and money coming from that too. My biggest thing, and I didn't even think about it when we were initially talking about it, we got to talk about the owners as well. I mean, fan base is a real thing if they get, sent down. But the other part of it is the market share that their team is relegated to a lower league. It could potentially impact revenue of that team significantly. And
you're going to create a whole new league. This changes everything. It changes everything. So if you're going to create a whole new league, it changes everything because the first off, right now, any USL Championship team who wins the championship or in that top echelon could immediately go up the ranks, right? So so I think that would make a big difference, a big difference as well, right? So this could work. It could work. So I'm not. I might have to say I take everything back. in this model, because this model, it works but again, right now there's no pro rel. As far as I know, League One does not promote into USL Championship, and USL Championship does not relegate to USL League One. So I don't know I don't believe it's currently happening. And so, but here's the thing. I know Jimmy's saying facilities and budget are what I see as the biggest obstacles. I'd love to see it work, but we can't have professional teams playing in high school stadiums. I do agree with that from the optics standpoint, but I don't think the people who are in there on Twitter land give a shit about that. I think the average fan of this game, while they don't like games being played on non-soccer specific places, I don't think they give a shit. I think to them that pro relegation is so important in their mind because they're so used to what's going on over across the pond, watching Premier League games now like they've never watched them before. I think that they are so hyper-focused on the fact that there's going to be games that can be promoted and relegated. They don't give a shit that they'll be playing on non-soccer specific fields. I don't think they care. And granted, at the end of the day, if you're playing the game in front of 7,000 people and you're making money, does it matter that it's not taking place on a soccer-specific stadium? Devil's advocate here, right? If we want to grow the game of soccer in this country, do we have to make some concessions? Do we have to compromise? I mean, I have to compromise with my wife all the time. I mean, and if I do that, I'm a happy man. And what I mean by that is that there's lots of things that I got to say yes to that otherwise in any other situation on earth, I would probably say no to. But because I love my wife very much, I say yes. I make compromises because she's my wife. I love her and I don't want to die. You know, it's like, but I mean, like that's so maybe there's just got to be compromises made. I mean, and then who at that point, then who cares? And the purists in all of us want that soccer specific stadium. We do. We want it to be soccer specific. We want it to be lined right. We want it to be 10,000 fans. We want it to all have we want to have the walking tacos, the really good, $30 meal that you can get for $5 anywhere else. We all want that. Right? The $25 beer that I can get for, pennies on the dollar at the Kroger. I mean, like we all want
Yeah. My only concern is this is like, do you create the Wild West if you implement that model? And if an MLS team gets sent down, do they survive that? Do they survive the demotion? Because I think about the European model, that team's always going to have a base of loyal supporters and money coming in.
Yeah, but again, even if they're not teams like Wrexham, who were in that 5th division, 4th division, whatever division they were in, they were struggling. They needed financial support. These teams right now aren't making any money. They're not. I believe the Detroit City's operating at a loss. And they're one of the more popular teams in the country when it comes to the USL Championship. And I would imagine that they are, with their new stadium coming up here in the next year or so, I would imagine that they would be definitely primed to be considered to be in that top division. I think the other question becomes is, does it actually mean something? Like, does it in fact mean something? Just because you build it doesn't mean it's going to get the same level of respect and admiration and pride and all the things that go with being, the MLS has been around for 30 plus years, right? So you've got this close to 30 years, I think 96. So it's right around there. Yeah. So we're looking at 28, right? 27, 29, right? We're in that era. So I don't know if it will just happen, we'll just, here we go in U.S. soccer. And again, U.S. soccer, what is in it for them, right? Because if they're going to sanction a Division I team alongside the MLS, there's going to have to be something for them in this. And let's be honest, it's not like a little stamp of approval. It's money. I mean, there's going to be a price tag associated with that. And I'm curious what that looks like. Because nothing is free. I know that. So it's very interesting to see what could come of this. And is it good for soccer? I don't know. Is it good for the MLS? Definitely not. And will it in fact increase the? Because here's the thing, right? I look at this from the standpoint of, okay, if there's players right now in this country that are not playing on MLS teams and they're playing overseas or they're playing in USL championship teams, are they of quality to play at that level? Right? I mean, are they of quality? I mean, you're taking about 20, 25 players who are playing at the highest levels in this country on these teams. And then now you have a bunch of teams below that. If you are, I'm a firm believer in this as a coach, a player, a fan of the game, that the best players in the country are playing already in the MLS. And the future best players are playing in other leagues. So now what happens, right? So are we talking about now players at the MLS saying, "Oh, I'll go play on Team Y over here, and USL"? Is that something that's going to happen? And are there in fact players, enough players to really make it quality soccer? To be fair, I would love to see like the winner of the USL Championship play the winner of full teams, head to head, MLS. Stop bringing this all-star game like from across the pond. I get why they do that, right? But have the USL Championship play against MLS players. Have them full squads. I mean, not like US Open Cup where you get like your bunch of your bench from the MLS. I mean, like straight up play. Like straight up play. I would love to see what that looks like. Because that to me would be like a telltale sign. Right? You've got Division 2 versus Division 1. Right? We've seen USL Championship teams go on and beat MLS teams. We've seen that, but let's be honest. When Detroit City beat Columbus here a few years back, it wasn't because Detroit City was way better than Columbus. They put their like third string team in. The MLS does not see a value in the US Open Cup. It's just a part of their process. And then when it comes time to actually play in the actual final, when they're playing against an MLS team, which to be fair, I don't understand that, because if I was in the MLS, I would want to just murder whoever, like I would just want to.
Yeah, I guess it's more. Sorry, I guess it's more petty to just leave your best guys out. Yeah,
right. Well, I mean, but when Michigan Tech goes into Green Bay's supposed to win. Put all your best players in, go out there and beat them up, right? That's what they're supposed to do. They're no name whatever team. Didn't happen. Right? Didn't happen. So, but again, did Green Bay put their best players out there? But they did. They still got whooped.
Yeah.
So yeah. I don't know. I mean, great. Okay, you build it, great. Now, where are the players going to come from? Right? I mean, we have a ton of players in this country. But right. And every team is different. Every situation is different. But if you're an MLS team, if you're the Los Angeles Galaxy, if you're, if you are Miami, if you are Columbus, if you are Philadelphia, if you're any one of these teams, you want to win. So if there's a player right now out there that gives you that chance of winning in their role, can give you a chance to be a better team overall, that player's on your team already. They're not playing in the USL Championship.
Right.
Unless you don't have room for them, which in that case, they're still not good enough. So where are they going to come from?
Well, and the thing that I keep saying, and it's, and seeing a little bit of it yesterday, but following and talking about it more today, the word that keeps getting used is development. It's the new step in their mind of developing high-level players and providing a pathway. And so, to me, when we talk about promotion and relegation, those two things don't really line up, right? If this is about professional development, they're talking about developing the individual player. There was no mention of any of that. And so that's the confusing part to me is I feel like if they're just adding another league just to add another league for development's sake or make the USL more legitimate, then that's one thing. I feel like you would come out and say that as opposed to just saying, well, it's just another step in the maturation of the USL. Are these teams that are going to compete with the highest level of players? But the other thing is, JT, like we talked about it, like the cream rises to the top. Like, unless we're absolutely convinced that the MLS doesn't have the best players in America, then I'm not quite sure what promoting a USL Division 1 team to MLS is really going to accomplish, because can they actually hang with these teams? You know, are they actually good enough on a talent level to be able to go out and compete on a regular basis with an MLS squad? That's the tough part to me. Is it about player development, or is it about getting those teams an opportunity to play in Major League Soccer?
I'm not going to sit here and tell you what the league thinks about an individual player. All right,
I'm sure you don't know.
What I can tell you, what I can tell you from my experience in dealing with USL, is that they hold themselves to a high standard. Now, does that mean they always hit that? Of course not. Not. We talk about this all the time. Organizations as a whole, they can try to be whatever they want, but they're not always going to hit it. So it's impossible to hit that benchmark and always stay there. But they try. The flip side of this, is it's a money play, right? With the World Cup coming to town here next year, we know that soccer is about to explode in a way it's never exploded before. We know that. And this is about that. This is about capitalizing on that time. And if we remember back in 1994, there were a lot of professional leagues that were trying, and it did not work. But what happened 2 years later in this country? After the 94 World Cup, the MLS was born. 2 years later. They're talking about 27, 28 being the start. So almost a year and a half, 2 years later, USL League One or Division One will become a thing. They are riding the coattails of the World Cup. This is what this is. And now, will it pan out? I have no idea. As a fan of the game of soccer and someone who's been around it for a very long time, I just don't know how competitive it will be. Because again, USL Championship right now would be arguably the next level, right below MLS. So naturally, you would maybe take your teams who are in the championship and say, okay, you're now elevated to this Division One. Half of you. Make it an 8-team, 9-team Division One, whatever. Take half of them, put them in there. And then you promote half of your League One teams to make the USL Championship what it was. Take some of your USL League Two teams, move them into League One. So there you fill the gaps. You start doing that, right? And then over time, you take a couple of them to USL Championship, plop them into USL Division One, a couple teams from USL League One back, and do that process for many, many years. Get yourself to 20 teams as fast as you can, but doing it responsibly. I just don't know the caliber of player. And again, what does this do? All the players out there who are playing in USL League 2, USL League 1, USL Championship, they're all going, oh my gosh, this is awesome. But is it though? But is it awesome? Are you going to get paid the same way as the MLS? Are you going to get $1 million contracts? Are you going to be, the NWSL is great for women's soccer, but if you ask the average player, for their season, they live in apartments. They're barely making enough money to survive. They have to have part-time jobs. I'm not saying it's for every player.
No. Right.
But they're the only way you make money in that league is if you're getting endorsements. And that's again for the top 1% player in that league. So, it just doesn't make sense. So yeah, you're gonna go play professionally, but you're gonna be making what, 10 grand a year? That doesn't make any sense.
No. And how do you feel the competitive roster that's gonna go out and play against the most talented teams when you're playing on a minor league budget? And again, facilities and all that other stuff, owners use losing market share if their team gets, sent down from the MLS. And the toughest part to me is how are we, if we want that type of system, how are we going to convince the people who are owners of these franchises to be willing to do that, because they're going to lose out on a lot of money. So not only would, we're talking about players that, again, are just not making a whole lot. They're just like their stipends. They're not going to come away with a whole ton. Yeah, they're considered pro. And so I feel like that's reason enough maybe for some of them to want to consider playing in this league. But it's going to be really tough to field anything competitive. But I understand the hype around the World Cup and maybe trying to capitalize off of that. Because I do think there is a lot of hype around that. Now, I don't know, obviously the USA men's soccer has a new coach and they've been looking better, but they still run into the same roadblocks that we've seen them run into years before. Now, I don't know what it looks like this year, but I can see them wanting to take advantage of that. But just because you add something new doesn't mean it's of any more value than what you had before, at least on the field speaking. This seems, if anything, to me, this seems more like a PR move than it is necessarily a move to create something that's of value. And that's not to say that it's not going to have value. Yeah, I think it will. And I'll be really interested to see what teams and how that gets structured once it comes along. But again, you can't really create a model that can go out and compete with the best if you can't really afford the best. And maybe that changes depending on what teams and what locations. Again, it'll be unique to see exactly who's involved in all this. But how do you do that? How do you field a competitive roster if you can't pay them to be competitive? That's the biggest part of this conversation. And it's, again, follow the money. No one wants to, because the hardest thing is like soccer followed all the other professional models in the United States. And now I think we're realizing that, that's not how it's done in the biggest soccer playing countries in the world. So how do we create something that's close enough? But we mentioned all the other issues, right? Geographically speaking, you got to go a lot further. But I do think there are, going back to what you said about the facilities, I think there are nice facilities that are not soccer specific that can be played in. And the tough thing is, I feel like that's everywhere we go. Anywhere we have club coverage or high school coverage, it's always at a football stadium. The only time I can ever remember doing games with you where it wasn't were the professional tier games. Sometimes UPSL wouldn't be playing on a high school field, but sometimes they do, same thing with the other levels. So I think as long as you can find a nice facility that can actually seat people and accommodate, somewhat large crowds, I think you're okay. But the thing is I've seen that product fail before personally. In Grand Rapids, financial viability, this from Jimmy, factor at Division I, how many non-MLS teams can meet that pro league standard isn't always waiverable. Yeah. That is a massive part. Ask Nisa. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Nisa, Nisa's it's a great point. But the here's the thing: these leagues ask a shit ton of money to teams to get started. Right? They ask a shit ton of money. Right? I think their entry fee in the USL League 2 is upwards of $75,000. Right? Entry fee. Right. So, and again, I don't know what that even goes towards, to be fair. So, but I'm not saying that should be too much or not enough. But I mean, what is the league's purpose? Right. What's its purpose? And if its purpose is to provide oversight and support and resources and to develop, then do they need that much money from these teams to do that? I don't know the answer to that question. Again, I'm not in the league environment, but I think the emphasis on leagues is to make money, right? So and to be fair, the USL is probably doing this because, again, they know their financial situation. They know what their league is about. They know that if they want to continue to create opportunities for their players, because right now, here, let's think of it this way: if your USL championship, and I'll take Detroit City FC for Maxi Rodriguez, was a staple here in Detroit for a long time, right? If he gets picked up by the MLS, he's gone. You just lost somebody that you built within your structure rate. So now what you're doing is you're going to take this talent that's currently there and give them a chance to stay within your system, to stay within your league. So now you can create that and create a pathway. It's no different than club soccer, where you've got a player who's 12 years old and you want them to go play academy, but you don't have an academy team. So they're going to leave you. So what do? You're going to try and create an academy team so that way players don't leave. Oh my God, we got to have an academy team. I don't want them to leave. We put all this money and invested all this money into this player, and now they're going off to the team that has the academy. It's not fair. Go create an academy team. Now they're going to stay. Oh my gosh, the players when they come back every summer for college, they're going and playing for this team over there, this team. We need to create our own team. So we're going to create our own pre-professional amateur team every summer so they can come back and play for us because we taught them how to play. So of course we should have a team for them. That's the mentality. It's like we've invested all this money, and I'm sorry, I know I'm not in these meetings, and I love the USL. That's why this is why they're doing this. They're doing it because they're investing all this money and energy into players in their programs, in their leagues, and they don't want them going to the MLS. They don't want them going. So they're creating this so they can develop the player within their USL League 2, USL League 1, USL Championship, and find a pathway for that player to the highest levels of the sport. And they can, at every level, they can monetize that. They can capitalize on that. That is the only reason this is being done. It has nothing else. And again, there could be 25 other reasons why they think this is a great thing. But I am telling you right now, that is why. They don't want players leaving them and going to the MLS. They want players staying with them and staying in their system. And if anyone thinks otherwise, they don't know soccer. And I just said it. I know I probably just alienated a whole group of people. But that is exactly what this is all about.
Yeah. Well, but also, if you're creating a league to try and compete or be an alternative to the main league in America, how is that going to help? I know an owner from USL 2 team, Soccer Centric Stadium. Yeah. Yep. Money does rule the sport. Thank you for that, Peter. I agree. But what does that accomplish? This goes back to everything we were saying about soccer being under one umbrella, being one big happy family. It's not. It's split right down the middle. This reminds me of the early days of professional football, back when there was a national in a different league, in baseball too, back in the whatevers, when you had the American League and the National League. They were two different leagues, and then they all came together. Why are we creating a league to compete with the other biggest league in the U.S.? How is that going to help anybody?
They're not creating a league to compete.
No. It's a different league altogether. That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
well, they want to create. They're not creating a league to compete. They're creating a league so that their players don't leave them.
Yes, but you're not creating a pathway to the biggest league, which is Major League Soccer, right?
Well, so again, if you look at it from this is why every club in America on some level is selfish. And it's not meant to be like a negative. It's just, it is what it is. What are you doing with a player? Player comes in your pathway who's really, really good, right? You want that player to stay. So what do? You offer them extra trainings. You promote them to everything you possibly can promote them to. You put all your resources and energy behind these players. And right now the model works in U.S. soccer, at least it does, that if a player is picked up by an MLS academy team, and then they make their way, these clubs are actually, these MLS sides are actually paying money back to the club. So there's an incentive now, right, within U.S. soccer, where there's like money that can be given back to clubs for players who go off and play at the highest levels, at their youth level, and rise the ranks. And then there's a chance for these teams and clubs to capitalize on that. Now, if you didn't know that, moms and dads and players out there, it's actually a thing. It's not about rights. It's about, hey, well, we developed the player. We want to get paid. The league is about that. This isn't about competing with the MLS. They're competing with themselves. Because again, right now, if you are a player in America right now, if you want to play professionally, what league do you think of? You think of the MLS. That's what you think of. Now, USL has some professional things, but again, if you're thinking about the top of your sport, if you're a kid in England, wherever England, in the UK, you are thinking about playing in the Premier League. You are thinking about playing in the Champions League. That is your dream, right? When you're growing up and you had a little hockey stick in your back, on your driveway, when you're hitting pucks against the wall, right? What were you thinking of? Playing for the Detroit Red Wings. It wasn't like, oh, I want to go play for the Grand Rapids Griffins. I mean, that might have been a thought process, but no, you want to go play for the Red Wings.
Yeah, but the Griffins are a feeder to the Red Wings.
Yeah, but they're
a minor league affiliate.
Yeah, but you're not like going, oh my God, I'm looking forward to the day I play for the Grand Rapids. No, you're looking that you play for the Red Wings. You know what I mean? A golfer growing up, it's the Masters. It's like it's like the Masters, right? It's like that. Like you start thinking about the things that you strive to go after. It's not like I'm striving to go after and play for the Metro Rangers FC out of Toulouse. It's not how that works, right? You're thinking about playing at the highest level, and that's the MLS. So what's going to happen now is if you do this, you now have a player going, "Oh crap, I can." It is mindset wise. Can I go play in the USL Division 1? Can I go play in this new league? And is that the same thing? And so now that will be a competitive aspect to this. And now players might start thinking about that. But again, the player right now who's in USL League 2, who wants to go play in USL League 1, and that player that then wants to go play in USL Championship, that's the player the league is trying to go after, because those are the players who are going to rise the ranks and they're going to find a home for them in that division. Now, would that mean that we'll have players going back and forth between MLS and USL? Of course you will, right? But it won't be happening as much in regards to USL players just leaving and going to the MLS. And now the club, now USL they don't lose that player anymore. Now they're going to keep them. So this is about controlling the flow of players from the bottom to the top. And the USL will do that now because of this league. And that is why they're doing this. They want to control that, control the narrative, make the money, right? It's money, it's marketing, it's all of that. And if I'm wrong, but by all means, tell me in the comments, Peter, or Jimmy, or anybody else who's tuning in here today. Let me know if I'm wrong. I'm fine, but I don't believe that I am. I believe that this is all about player control and about finding a way to keep players within your leagues and ultimately being able to profit and capitalize off of those pathways. And the MLS right now is taking full advantage of that, because that's the only option these players have once they get to the highest level in your organization.
I don't argue that you're wrong. That for what it's worth, that you are right in what you are saying. My question is, how does that help anybody? We have the USL Division 1. We also have the MLS. What is the highest level? What is the highest league? What is in America? Okay, well, we got a couple of different ones. Again, I feel like we're all pulling in different directions here. And it does come back to control. You don't want your players to leave your organization and go to a different organization because they realize that they've maybe outgrown you. Like, I trust me, I get that. But watered down is the term that I always just continue to come back to the longer that we have this conversation. It just seems like it is all getting very, very watered down. Now that we've introduced this new league, okay, they don't want to let players leave the USL. That's fine. You develop the player, you want to benefit from that. I get that. Okay, like I understand the point of that, because you even look at it, I mean, from the college landscape right now too in America, like, kid goes to Vanderbilt or Marshall or one of those places, and all of a sudden he's out of your program, and he's in the Big Ten or he's wherever else. I get that. Teams want to keep their players in-house. They don't want to let them leave. They want to create a new option to where they can get to the highest level of the USL and not have to leave it. But this struggle for control is what drives me nuts. And maybe I'm wrong. You can say that I'm wrong, but it just feels like soccer can't get out of its own way in the United States, because I don't know if this creates, I don't know. I feel like we're all pulling in different directions. And you're right. No one grows up dreaming of playing for the Grand Rapids Griffins. But the Griffins are a minor league affiliate. They develop players to go play at the highest level. Why don't we have a system like that? MLS, and then under that is development, and we have a tiered system, and you can climb the systems and eventually get to the highest level. But there's I don't know. Peter, I do not think you are wrong. I think there is an alternative motive, one that we don't know, but possibly your conclusion is correct. Peter, I think follow the money. Follow the money. If you want to wonder why people make these decisions, follow the money.
I don't think that on any level that USL is going to come out and say this, but and again, I love the USL. I love what they stand for. I'm a big proponent of what they do. They have a great system. And they are, by and large, probably one of the most well-run leagues that we've come in contact with or come across. So I don't want this to sound like I'm speaking ill of the USL. I'm not. But again, why have they created Super Y USL Youth? Why have they created USL Academy? They're creating club organizations at the youth level in order to do what? To identify talent, to pipe them through their programs. That is what they're doing. That's what they're doing. So it only makes natural sense to go in and go to the top level. Again, you're creating a place for players to go, oh, shit, I can go all the way up here. Right? That's what it's all for. That's what it's for. Yes, and a byproduct of all of that is we're going to compete against the MLS. We're gonna be taking some players and some talent from them. It's going to be blah blah blah. It's a byproduct, right? There's a money component to this, all of that. But if you are a USL youth a club team in this country, USL Academy team in this country, you have players right now going, oh no, oh my gosh, holy cow! No different than how there's MLS academies in this country. What is the mindset of those players who are playing right now in Columbus Crew, just in Columbus right now? What's the mindset of that player? I'm playing right now for an MLS Academy team. I'm utilizing the same resources, environment, same facilities as the MLS side. I play some of my games in the old Columbus Crew Stadium. I play some of my games in the Lora.com Stadium. They're thinking that they have a chance to play at the highest level. You are giving players at that youth level, at that academy level, at that USL 2 level, at that USL League One and USL Championship to go, oh my goodness, we can go here. You have created a pathway. And as someone once told me, it's like another notch in the ladder. If you think about soccer and a ladder of soccer, if you have a pathway from the top all the way down, and your players, your parents, your families, your fans all can identify what those notches are in the ladder or those different things, then you have done exactly what you wanted to do. The MLS back in 1996 started with teams only, just the highest team in the land. What did they start to do over the last 10 years, 15 years? They started to develop players in their own system. What have they created? Their own Division II league called MLS Next Pro. They're doing it backwards. They're going backwards because they realized that they want to identify the future talent of this country. They have to do it themselves. They cannot do it by relying on other clubs and other organizations. That's why they created it. The USL, they already have a pathway. They've already created a pathway. They are way ahead of the game. If this was 1996 all over again and you had the MLS coming out of nowhere and USL was already in this way, USL would be the MLS right now. There'd be no doubt in my mind. So that is why they've done this. They have this pathway that just clear. It's a clear pathway to the top. And now every player, every parent, every coach, they all know it. And that is what makes this thing super exciting to anyone within USL. Anybody. Because now everybody has a fighting chance to go to the top level in their sport, in that league, in that organization that wasn't there before. Because now you're in the insider will get first look. It's like hiring from within. Oh my God, we've known Johnny Smith since 2014. We know he's very well capable and versatile center back. He will fit into our League One team. We've been training him since he was 10. It's the model that works across the pond. And the MLS is trying to do it backwards. USL is trying to do it going forward. That's a significant difference. And I can tell you this right now, if they can pull this thing off in 5 years, USL will be the cream of the crop in this country. And in 10 years, who knows? It will take some time. Maybe it's 10 years. But I actually believe when you say what's good for this is it gives players, parents, and fans a clear idea of where they can go.
Right.
And if you were to walk into any corporation in America and you're on day one of your job, if you're looking for a career, you're not saying, "Oh, well, is this it? Is this I'm going to be an executive assistant. I'm going to be a sales rep, at the bottom." No. I want to see that, okay, well, if I do my job in 90 days, I can be promoted to team leader to team manager to vice president to this, and regional this. And you want to see the hierarchy.
Yeah.
They get to see that now.
And believe me, I get it. And it resembles a lot, again, of other professional sports and player development, bringing them up through JT. I get that. I really do. I understand everything that you're saying. So what happens to the MLS? Do they disappear, or do we shake hands and agree to all work together on this?
Oh, there'll be no shaking of hands.
So that's my problem.
Yeah, there'll be no shaking of hands. I mean, come on now. I mean, MLS is going to compete.
We're all
is a $2.4 billion a year industry. I mean, they're not going to shake hands.
Well, so imagine if they did. Imagine if it was like the NFL and how the two leagues came together, or the MLB and the two leagues came together. There's a tremendous amount of potential there. Tremendous amount of potential.
Potential for them to share?
Share? We come together under what one thing?
No. Under what one thing?
Share resources, share buildings, scouts. Create one big thing.
That won't happen. It won't happen. Because it's like okay. And again, if we look at this on a micro level, not a macro. Let's just look at it from the standpoint of youth soccer in this country. Club Y, Club X over there. You know, what kind of synergy happens between clubs? Now, I'm not saying there isn't synergy. I'm not saying that they don't do some things together, because they do. But you know what I mean? Like, every year there's tryouts. And every year, players want to go to places where they can call home. And so there's a lot of emotions into that. It could be a coach thing. It could be a location thing. It could be a money thing. It could be whatever. But I don't see USL and MLS coming together and saying, let's be copacetic in the same place. No, they're going to be competing against each other. And while, hey, they might not, I'm not saying there be roadblocks, but I don't think that, I don't think there'll be I don't think it'll be copacetic. You know what I mean? I think there'll be some infighting for sure, and there'll be some growing pains. And as Peter's alluding to, is maybe USL will even absorb MLS. I mean, possibly. And I think the fan of the game is going to love this, because I think there's a subsect of fans out there who, not even subsect, I would say a main group of fans out there that loathe the MLS. Like, it's a necessary evil. And I think those fans are going to love every bit of this. You know, and there's a fan base out there that is just wanting to see that promotion relegation so much so that they don't give a shit who does it, as long as it gets done. You know, so I look at this and say, okay, well, you know, is it good? I think it's yet to be determined. I think for USL, it's fantastic. And I am excited about what this could do for the game of soccer in this country. And I do think that competition is good too, right? It's healthy. It helps. It puts the MLS on its toes. And who knows what can come of this? But I think it's great for the game of soccer, and I'm curious to see what happens. But again, I think it's important to acknowledge what this is about. And that's why, like, from my perspective, I can look at it and say, this is about creating that next level for a player who's already in their USL, create a clear pathway. And if you do that and you do it right, then you'll be cultivating talent internally for a very, very long time that will compete at the highest levels in this country, and eventually put themselves in a position where maybe they could, in fact, be better than the MLS. And that would be fun to watch, and very interesting to see. But well, hey, that's our hour on this Friday morning, Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day. But Jimmy says, I hope I would love to see how it work, and hope it does. And then he also says USL did absorb the old A League back in the day. So hey, I mean, you know, I think anything is possible, and we'll have to see how that kind of shapes up and whatnot. But Nathan, that was a great week again. I know we missed Wednesday because of my thing, but so that was episode 28, now officially in the books. But they'll be back here on Monday for more action. My daughter Zoe turns 12 on Monday, so that's exciting.
Hey,
but they don't forget tonight we got the MASL English commentary. Chihuahua Savage, San Diego Soccer. The game kicks off at 9:00. Pregame coverage begins at 8:45 Eastern. 8:45 Eastern, and we're excited to bring it to you. So, but either way,
it'll be a fun one.
Have a great rest of your weekend. And we'll see you back here on Monday for more Inside the Game.
Peace.
Boom. And here we go. This Friday night, Valentine's Day, the ultimate showdown in Major Arena Soccer. It's first versus second. The Chihuahua Savages attack against the Soccer's fierce defense. Coverage begins at 8:45 Eastern. This Friday night, only on the National Soccer Network.